above me. I felt cold, bone-chilling winds coming from the open window. My room was dimly illuminated by the light of the blue moon. It was early fall, which was always my favorite season. I looked around the old battered room. I had just moved into the house a few days ago, so the room was still bare. I watched the disfigured shadow follow my movements. It felt as if it was all a ruse to trick me into thinking it was merely my own shadow. I assured myself that everything was fine and went back to bed. I slept surprisingly well for a few hours. I woke around 3 a.m., the devil's hour, as people call it. I felt eerily cold as something ran up my spine. I jumped out of bed, startled, and slipped on something wet on the floor. The next thing I knew, I was reliving my past. I was a freak of nature, a force nobody wanted to deal with. I was called a monster. I was picked on. They called me Syndrome. In school, I suffered from multiple diseases and syndromes. Whenever I showed signs of one, they would repeat Syndrome Samantha. It even got to the point in which the teacher started to make fun of me. What could I have done about it, though? One day, a new teacher came in and stood up for me. She tried to save me. Over time, I saw her feelings for me change. She grew weirdly quiet and weary of me. One day, she came to me and asked if I wanted to be like the other children. She then proceeded to grab my arm and roughly pushed me against the wall. With a free hand, she tied me to a nearby shelf. I struggled and was scared. She came at me with a broken bottle and a cross. She screamed, telling me to release my demons or she would kill me. At that moment, I started to feel a hunger consume me. I woke up from that hellish nightmare to a horrible migraine and several uncontrollable twitches. My nightgown was now covered in the substance on the floor where I lay. My head was pounding, and there was a sharp pain in my spine. I sat up and glanced over to the open window and grabbed onto the bed to pull myself up. After steadying myself, I walked over to the window and looked outside. It was cloudy and windy. A few branches had broken from the strong winds and hung from the electrical wire stretching from pole to pole. I noticed a tall, strange man in a black suit walking down the sidewalk. He had a slender body and looked to be albino. This could have been from the fact that the man was shrouded in moonlight. It was one of those brighter nights, however, where you could faintly see shadows following you wherever you went. The thing that worried me the most was the fact that this man did not have one. I walked back to my bed and felt around for my phone. After a few moments of fumbling around, I found it and picked it up. There was a message there, waiting for me. The message was from an unknown number. I didn't know whether or not it would have been a virus. My gut told me not to check it, but I felt it was fine. What could be the worst that could happen, I thought. Maybe I'd get a virus and have to get a new phone? In my mind, it wasn't a big deal. I unlocked my phone and opened the message. I've seen you from a distance. You're so beautiful and gentle, despite your true nature. I've seen how you treat yourself. They won't understand you the way we do. Join us, and don't turn away from this opportunity. We will be expecting you. I was awfully creeped out by this, yet curious at the same time. I attempted to text a response to the unknown number. After I sent the message, I got an automated response. The response that the number was no longer available. The curiosity was getting the better of me. I glanced over at the clock and noticed it was almost 4 a.m. I decided I should clean up before I went back to bed. I carefully felt my way around the room as I exited, trying to make sure I didn't slip on the weird substance. I felt around the hallways in search of the bathroom mirror light. No light switch at all, but the bathroom door was in my grasp. Locked. But why? I lived alone. Nobody else was there. I certainly hadn't locked it before I last left it. I continued searching the halls for a light switch or some form of light to see what was on my gown. As I entered a large space and felt around, I felt something I recognized. Thank goodness. It was the kitchen sink. That meant there was a light source. I felt around until I found the fridge and opened it to have a touch of light. I turned around and walked across the kitchen to turn on the light switch. I walked back to the fridge and closed the door and looked down at the now visible substance on my gown. It was thick, like honey or thick oil. It was black as night and had a putrid smell that I had only just then noticed. I guess it was because I had been walking around, which kept the smell behind. I opened one of the drawers I put random stuff into the day I moved in and checked to see if I put anything of use in there. I guess it was my lucky night. I picked up the flashlight and went to turn it on when all of a sudden another rush of cold air had come from behind me. I shivered and jumped, dropping the flashlight. I took a glance behind me. Nobody was there, but something definitely seemed off. "Hello?" I yelled out with no response. Just my nerves, I guess. I picked up the flashlight and set it next to the sink nearby. I needed some cleaning supplies, so I walked over to the supply closet where I was going to keep them. I put some away, so luckily I had a mop and bucket that I could take with me to the room. I grabbed the mop and bucket and walked over to the sink and filled it with water. I hadn't unpacked any other cleaning soaps or detergents yet, so I figured dish soap would do. I mean, if it worked well enough to get oil off of animals, surely it would work on this mystery substance. I picked up the flashlight and turned it on before carrying the cleaning supplies to the bedroom. After cleaning up the mystery substance, I started walking back to the kitchen. I was passing the hall I went down earlier and became curious about the locked door from earlier. I set down the used cleaning supplies and walked to the bathroom and tried to open the door, only to find it was unlocked this time. I walked in and found the bathroom a mess. There were objects from other places inside the house now tossed around in the bathroom like nothing was wrong. The window was open and the screen was popped out. It was closed before I had gone to bed. How did someone manage to get in? How did I not hear them moving around? Did they exit through the window? Or was the wind behind me in the kitchen? Whatever, or whoever did this. Were there multiple people? Or just one? Was it a person? What in the world was going on here? I calmed myself down and picked stuff and carried it back to its original spots. As I was putting away the last object in the bedroom, I saw my phone glowing again. Another text. "Don't be afraid. We mean you no harm. You are among friends here. There are darker things that could have been done. We will keep in touch." Keep in touch? How do they have my number? What do they mean by friends? And what are these darker things that could have been done? They wouldn't kidnap me, would they? And that was a preview of Syndrome Samantha. If you want to hear more of this, make sure to like and subscribe down below. And watch for part 2.